Hey y'all, it's Christina, and today I'm finally doing the full garden tour. Incredibly bright, and I wanted to get out here this morning and I didn't have a chance. So we're gonna do it a little bit later than I wanted to, but I will walk you around and show you my full garden, plus the kids' pool. So this whole area back here, we built these raised beds in the last 6 or so years. We've lived in this house for 9 years, and we've just been adding a little bit at a time. I started out really slow, just had a bed, a couple of tomatoes and a pepper, and it just kind of grew from there. So let's start on this end, which is the bigger garden area. I've got my little key where I write everything down what I planted, because I totally forget everything. So let's start here. So this area is what I call the garden, and it is where we have the big raised beds with the lids. Now, we are on an acre and a lot of our property isn't fenced. So we did have, well, we first had a problem with rabbits. We haven't anymore because all the houses they've put up since we moved in 9 years ago. But we also have deer. And so my husband built these hinged lids. They are just, I think they're 2x4s, pretty sure. And electrical conduit, and then I just wrapped chicken wire around it. And just the biggest hinges we could find, and they open and close, so it's easy for me to get in and out, but it keeps the deer out. But hopefully real soon we'll get the rest of the fence finished and I could take these lids off, because they kind of are a pain, but they're great at keeping the deer out. This bed is looking kind of sad. Trying to figure out what I had in here. Oh, I had Romanesco and cauliflowers, and those are gone. And so I planted these eggplant back here, and they're not doing too great. And I'm just now noticing there's quite a bit of pest pressure. So I probably need to spray some neem oil or some BT to combat that. But I have potatoes planted on the other side, but I had some extra. So I did just a row right down the side of Irish potatoes. And then I have a bunch of volunteer sweet potatoes. That's what these little guys are right here. And they're small right now, but boy, I tell you what, the sweet potatoes get huge. I had sweet potatoes in this bed, and obviously I didn't get them all, or maybe there's a little tiny one, because now we have totally new ones, which is so awesome. Those are gonna fill this entire bed with greenery and vines. They are so prolific, and they make the prettiest flowers. So if you need something to filler or just to look really cute, sweet potatoes are so easy, and I didn't know that they were so pretty. So kind of looking forward to that. And I love a volunteer plant. And from there, in the second bed, I have garlic, and I don't remember which kinds. I know I have 3. We are in zone 8B in Central Texas, Hill Country. And I know this back row right here has some elephant garlic. I can't remember what the other ones are, but they are one of the few that we can grow down here because it gets so hot. They'll be ready this summer, probably June, so another month. And my goodness, we had some rains, and even though I mulched really well, there's still lots of weeds popping up. So like any good gardening day, there's always some weed pulling involved, so I'll be doing that later. Now this next one are my onions. Actually, these next 2. I planted these November the 9th, and I got them from Dixondale Farm. These are sweet 1015s and Bell Reds, and these are looking great. Let me see if I can show you through the chicken wire. They're starting to really bulb out again with the weeds popping up. Man, I love the rain that we've had lately, but it's really caused a lot of weeds, but they're doing really great. Now, there's a bunch of empty spots, and that's because here recently I picked some, and then there's some strawberry plants in the middle, which my little girls did, and they've been picking strawberries because strawberries and onions are good companion plants, but they got a little crowded by the onions. I need to get in here and pull some of these, so we'll definitely be having an onion harvest video pretty soon. Let's see, in this one, and these are all, like I said, my red onions. I call them purple onions because they're purple, not really red. They are all standing up nice and tall. You see that? I mean, they are really healthy. They're just now starting to bulb out. So I may try to get one more application of some fertilizer, kind of increase their fertility. And then hopefully I can get some good big bulbs out of these. Now on this other side, this is my actual, like, this is like a big part of the yard where the kids play, but the actual backyard behind the house, I did a video on this. I'll leave the link below on how we made it into a garden. And it was basically just this area that, basically like a big dog run, really rocky, and just dirt, nothing really, not even grass was growing, and just make it a pretty garden area. And it is really taking off. So I'm gonna show you guys that now. I have this whole area kind of by our seating area. It's just a hodgepodge of stuff. And my girls made a fairy garden, and we planted a bunch of different bulbs, and this one gladiola, I think it's a gladiola, is the only thing that came out of it. So we'll have to try harder next year. I have some leftover garlic that didn't fit that I put in grow bags. And then I have this beautiful volunteer tomato. So that's awesome. Then I have my oregano. Over here I have different kinds of basil, lemon basil, lettuce leaf basil, regular basil. And over here I planted, like right here I have our berry bush that we planted last year, and it's doing great. But we're producing a ton of berries all over it. So I got another one. It's just a little guy, and I planted just a flower mixture around it. Is the garden, and it's looking so good. I think we'll start over here. This is my lettuce bed, and it's struggling a little bit. We have been getting 80-degree days and 90-degree days already here in this first part of May. So a lot of these, like I had spinach, as you can see, this is the last of spinach, and it's starting to get ready to go to seed. So it's gonna be too bitter and time to feed to the chickens. But I still have some lettuce growing really well. And what we just do is we come and we just pick, you know, some of the outer leaves, make a salad, the big ones, and then just let it keep growing. So I'll come back and get these later. But I'm seeing a lot of pest pressure on my kale. I mean, those caterpillars that came with the the rain recently, gosh, they are just devouring all the kale. So this bed, other than like there's my list, but I have three tomato plants, and they're probably in my artichoke. Outside of that, all the rest of this will be gone in the next month just because of the heat. So I'm going to plant okra in this bed, and it'll get big and beautiful and have a ton of flowers. We tried this year for the first time with sunflowers. These are the mammoth ones I got from Baker Creek. They are massive. Look at that. Okay, and then right next to that, we have these two beds, and then we built this arch that we got a cattle panel from Tractor Supply. Cost like $20, $22. Took us about 4 minutes to put together, so easy. I wish I had thought ahead to make more space in between my beds so that I could have a lot more, but that's in the future because the vertical gardening is awesome. So in this bed I have some cantaloupe, and then I think that's a watermelon. I thought that was because I did cantaloupe and actually I think cantaloupe and watermelon. The whole middle are different green beans. And then over on this side I have two different kinds of cucumbers. I have the Max Pack cucumber and the Munchers. And then on this side, and these are nasturtiums. I have nasturtiums planted at each end of the arch. Yard long Armenian cucumbers and Chinese long beans, and that's what'll grow up this side of the panel. Again, I have my rows of green beans in between, and then down here I have different squashes. This year I decided not to do squashes. I always do a bunch of crooked neck squash and zucchini, and the squash vine borers last year, they just decimated it like overnight. It was awful, and I wasn't going to do any this year. And then I got some butternut squash seeds, and so that's what I'm doing. I have spaghetti squash and butternut squash. So far so good. It's growing really well, but I know the squash vine borers, gosh, they come in so quickly and just take them out. I have a little guy on here. I think there's a lot more. It looks really good and healthy. There's a little bit of powdery mildew, so I have to stay on top of that. Well, this one is super fun. This is my now 18-year-old daughter, but when she was little, this was her day bed, and before she went to like a bigger bed. And I have been in love with this bed. It's just a wrought iron, very cute, shabby chic look, and I didn't want to get rid of it. I've had it storing in the attic, the garage, the shed. It's just been getting moved around for years. And recently we decided to clear out a lot of stuff, and one of the things I was like, okay, I'm just gonna get rid of this bed. And then a friend of mine was like, why would you do that? That would be so great in your garden. And I put it in here, and it fit this bed perfectly. And now I have things, now I have things growing up it, and I can enjoy it like forever. So if you have like anything that's old, like an old crib or just an iron bed, think about repurposing it. Look it up on Pinterest. There are a ton of ideas. It's the same. I have, well, this one is a habanero. And then I have more basil. What is this one? It's a sweet pepper. I think are these more sunflowers? I know I planted little flowers all along a lot of the beds. And then I have, these are rattlesnake pole beans. And I planted those there so that they will grow all over that bed frame. And then I have my squash growing up this side of it. I have been using the tomato ties just to kind of train it and help it learn how to trellis up it. I don't even know. I think I may have watermelon in here too. It's all kind of starting to look like one big jungle. I'm not mad about it. Hello, pretty friends. And this food, those, if you can see on the table, those are the onions I picked a couple weeks ago now. I'm letting them dry out so that I could braid them and hang them in the kitchen. And then this is my sweet potato bed. It's a little bed. It's taking off. But do you see, compared to the other one that has the volunteers? Oh my goodness. There's this sweet potato popping out. We're just gonna cover you up, little friend. So they are already super getting viney. They're gonna come all the way out here in the walkway, and they'll flower and they'll be beautiful. All right, so this is part of my tomatoes over here, and they're over here. But I have 4 different kinds of tomatoes. And funny story, okay, so this year I decided to go all in, right? And I've never started my tomatoes from seeds. Usually I only have like 5 to 7 plants, nothing real big, and I usually just buy them from the local nursery. And this year I decided to be all in. I knew I was gonna super expand, and so I got a bunch of seeds. I started them indoors. I had a whole growing station set up in my dining room, had the heat mats, I had to buy lights. It really wasn't that much. I probably invested about $100, and I could use it for years to start all these tomatoes and peppers. And here's the best part. Okay, so I know I have mortgage lifters, Amish paste, brandywine, white tomasols, sun gold cherry. That might be it. I can't remember. But I think I had like 30 tomato plants in total that we planted. And a couple of weeks before I came to plant all the tomatoes and peppers, I guess she's not a toddler anymore, but my 4-year-old, and y'all, she pulled out all the labels. So it's so frustrating. So long story short, you can tell some differences in the leaf structure of the plants, but I had so many and I don't know what is which. Obviously right now, I'll show you in a minute, you can start telling me my Amish paste. You can definitely very much tell which ones are those. The cherry tomatoes, the little ones, they're a big difference. But it says mortgage lifter and brandywine. I cannot tell the difference. So I think once the fruit is not green anymore and actually is starting to show its color and ripen, I'll be able to tell a difference and really tell. But I do have a really prolific one that's growing, and it's either mortgage lifter or brandywine, and it's growing big, beautiful tomatoes. They're in clusters. So I really need to figure out which one, because I definitely want to grow them again next year. So just be forewarned, if you have little ones in the house and you're growing a bunch of the same thing like peppers or tomatoes that take a lot of time and energy, and you're doing different varieties, don't put the little markers inside. Write it on there, or like Sharpie it. It can't be wiped off. That's what I'm going to do in the future. The plan is to solo cup, plant them, and Sharpie on each individual one what it is, because I'd really like to know what I planted or where I planted it. So these are my tomatoes, and they're looking so beautiful. There's a lot of flowers. They're flowering everywhere, and when I come out here, when I see them, I usually just kind of give them a little flick or a little shake, and that just helps to pollinate them. I did last year use the electric toothbrush trick, where you bring in just like a little kid's electric toothbrush, and wherever there's flower, you kind of just stick it on the little stem, and it like vibrates and shakes it around, and it just helps those flowers to release and pollinate each other. So, and I had prolific tomatoes last year, so I think it worked. But just to show you, here's the other side, and these are already massive. I did plant all indeterminate this year, and look at them. They are huge, and these are growing in clusters. Like there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all on that one little cluster of big tomatoes. So I'm glad we put a trellis here, because these are gonna get so bogged down and heavy. And I have been, I'll show you, I have been tying them with the little tomato tying string I got on Amazon. But see, like there are little tomatoes everywhere. And see, here's another cluster of big tomatoes. Gosh, they're just so pretty. I feel like I'm gonna be so full of tomatoes all at the same time. Look at that. They look so great. In front of that, I have I have more sunflowers, these big beauties. And then I have different pepper plants, some basil. Oh, look. There's a bell pepper. Here recently, we just redid the teepee, and I did have, like, I used rocks. We have a ton of rocks on our property, and I just kind of made edging out of rocks and mounded up the soil. And we noticed over this last year, the rain like washed it away. So I ordered this set of 5 grow bags. I think it was like 20 bucks on Amazon. And then we just put I got these cedar limbs off our property and Mr. Owl, and we decided to plant. Now, my little girls helped, and you can see that like that one was probably me. This was the little girl. So we're gonna have a very full teepee here in about another month. This one is the Christmas lima beans. This one is National Pickling Cucumbers. This is the Old Timer Clay Pinto beans. These are Chinese, these right here are Chinese long beans. And the last one we did rattlesnake pole beans. Here in a month, these will be all grown up the teepee. My girls can play in it, and it's gonna be so fun. This is the rest of my tomatoes. Like I said, I don't know what is what, but I am seeing lots starting to come out. I want to say this is a brandywine, because some of them aren't showing a lot, and then some of them are super dimply. And so I know this, see, this is the Amish paste, and it definitely is different. I tried something new this year. We planted some ground cherries. Never even ate them before, and then tomatillo type husk, and when they're ready, they just fall straight to the see. So that, and this one, we did a cattle panel hooked on with a 2x4 for that. And like I said, I just planted on both sides all the way down. We have lots and lots and lots of tomatoes. These sun gold cherries are so, ooh, this one's starting to change. They just produce so much. It's awesome. And then more peppers all the way down. I have tomatillos over here. I planted 2 tomatillo plants, and then I thought it was a third, but it's a tomato plant. So this is another jungle. Now this last bed is my potatoes, and They're starting to die back. They're not looking as beautiful and healthy. They never did bloom. And we dug up some yesterday just to kind of scratch around and see, and there were grubs everywhere. So when we were digging around, there were so many grubs, like little tiny grubs to huge, like I've never seen grubs this big. And grubs, they look so gross. I posted some pictures on a gardening Facebook group to see like what I should do, and a lot of people were like, go fishing. And so I know that, but that's not very helpful. So if you have any ideas on what I should do with these grubs or these potato plants, if I should leave them and give them a little bit longer, if I should go ahead and pull them up, leave a comment below and help me out. Maybe anyone else who might be watching this video struggling with grubs. They are so prolific. I mean, I know people say just dig them out and throw them to the chickens, but I mean, there were probably 30 in 1 square foot. I mean, it would take me all day to sit. So I think I may get some beneficial nematodes, is what I read Googling it. So if you have any ideas on how I should treat for grub worms, let me know, because I really don't want it to affect my garden, because if it spreads to my tomatoes, I'll be devastated. Like seriously devastated. So that's it for the first garden tour of 2021. It's looking great, and I hopefully try to do this at least every other week, if not every week, to kind of watch the progress. This week I'm definitely going to be harvesting all of those sweet yellow onions. All the sweet yellow onions. And so I'll have a video on onions and how to dry them out and how to make an onion braid to hang in your kitchen. So be on the lookout for that. Once I get that done, I'll also link that one below, as well as the video I did last week on putting together our garden. So I hope y'all like this video. Don't forget to give it a like and subscribe, and I'll see y'all later. Bye y'all.